Nepal, a land shrouded in mystery, a feudal state trapped in a medieval time warp, peopled by landless peasants, governed by caste and religion, and trapped in poverty. A people ready for revolution. In the mountains of East Nepal, B Company 16th Battalion of the Maoist rebel army starts its daily training. Like most things in Nepal, their weapons are outdated, but over the years these fighters have established a reputation as fanatical warriors, and with it, a reputation for brutality. Women in particular are attracted to an ideal that promises freedom from the constraints of both caste and gender. And here, like in the rest of the Maoist army, women make up more than a third of rebel ranks. Only 19 years old, Comrade Bihani is already a 3-year veteran of the war.
क्रान्ति प्रति प्रतिबद्धता जाहेर गरेर जुन दिनदेखि हामी क्रान्तिमा लामबद्ध भइयो हैन र चाहिँ एउटा कुनै पनि हामीले अधिकार र एउटा मुक्ति खोजिरहेका छौं हैन जसले गर्दाखेरि कुनै पनि एउटा मुक्ति पाउनको लागि हामीले संघर्ष गर्नुपर्ने रहेछ हैन र जसले जबसम्म हामीले संघर्ष गर्न सक्दैनौं र मृत्युदेखि डरायौं भनेदेखि कुनै हालतमा पनि हामीले त्यस्तो खाले अधिकार पाउन नसक्ने रहेछौं हैन जसले गर्दाखेरि हामीलाई अर्थात मलाई चाहिँ त्यस्तो मृत्युदेखि कुनै पनि डर लाग्दैन
To the outsider, Maoist ideology may well appear anachronistic in the 21st century, but Nepal remains a country lost in the traditions of a once glorious past. For centuries, the country was dominated by a royal elite who, comfortably ensconced in their Kathmandu palaces, ruled over a feudal system. Outside Kathmandu, in the towns and villages that make up the backbone of this country, landless peasants were bonded to provide labour for absentee landlords. Even with the belated introduction of multi-party democracy in 1990, corruption, bad governance and underdevelopment continued unabated. And 6 years later, the Maoists launched their insurgency. For years, the conflict was largely confined to remote rural areas, until 2001, when the newly crowned King Gyanendra let loose the Royal Nepalese Army, or RNA, on the insurgents. Overnight, the death toll rose dramatically. Human rights abuses escalated to unprecedented levels, and according to international human rights groups, the country now holds the unenviable record for the highest number of politically motivated disappearances anywhere in the world. Human rights lawyer Mandira Sharma deals with these abuses on a daily basis.
Courts are not functioning properly. Court orders are not observed. Torture is being used very systematically and routinely. Extrajudicial killings are going on, and there is no investigations at all on those sort of cases. Victims of disappearances have faced the similar problems. There is no remedy for the victims. So we have been going through the worst time in terms of human rights.
Torture has become a commonly used tactic, and these drawings, based on the testimony of torture victims, leave little to the imagination. This man is one such torture victim. Recently released from arbitrary detention, he still lives in fear, afraid to show his face or talk to the camera. For more than a year, he was shuttled from police station to army barracks without ever being told why he was under arrest. Throughout his detention, the army consistently denied that he was in their custody, leaving his family unsure of where he was, not knowing if he was dead or alive.
The army has been systematically torturing people. They have been very systematically killing civilians and also using forced disappearances of people. And they have complete impunity.
The United Nations Special Rapporteur on Torture, Manfred Novak, has also levelled accusations of systematic torture at the army. Army spokesman Brigadier General Deepak Gurung denies the charge.
He used the word systematic, so which is totally wrong. It's not true. It's not systematic. Maybe individual cases might be there of torture, etc., etc. But then, if anyone commits a mistake, and we come to know of it, we carry out our investigations and we court-martial.
Tracking down the truth in this conflict is difficult and dangerous. There's little or no press freedom, and the government seeks a monopoly of information on a civil war that nobody wants.
99.999% of Nepali people don't want this war. They don't want to have anything to do with it, and yet they are the victims. The people realize this is just a power struggle between the revolutionaries, who are outdated in their ideology, and a monarchy that wants to take the country back 3 decades. And if in that power struggle, they just got in the middle.
Rukum district in the midwest of the country is typical of much of Nepal. Like many areas, the country's topography and lack of development means no roads and access only by air. Passengers alighting here step straight into the heart of the conflict. Musikot is the capital city of Rukum and serves as a perfect illustration of the military stalemate that this conflict has become. District capitals like this have become garrison towns, guarded by hundreds of policemen and soldiers and heavily defended. And with such a concentration of force ranged against them, towns like Musikot remain beyond the military reach of the Maoists. The last time they attacked a garrison town in Rukum, the aftermath was heavy defeat and loss of life. In these heavily fortified hilltop bases, the government army is almost invincible. But the rest of the district is no man's land and under the effective control of the Maoists. And apart from the occasional patrol, a no-go zone for the RNA. But whatever popular support the rebels once enjoyed here in the birthplace of their revolution has now been largely lost to violent and coercive tactics. Bal Bahadur Mala is Rukum's chief district officer and the most senior government representative in a district torn apart by the conflict.
The situation is grave here regarding Maoist activities. In general, all parts of the district is severely affected by Maoist activities here. Maoists are terrorists, in my opinion, because they have initiated from the very beginning anti-social activities. That's why they are terrorists.
Man Kumari Bista agrees. She took shelter here among the heavy police and army presence after Maoists drove her and her son out of their village. Right across the country, hundreds of thousands of people have been displaced by war and economic necessity. Having lost what little they own, these people survive through the mutual support of their fellow displaced. Branded a class enemy by the Maoists, Man Kumari Bista at least managed to escape with her life. Her husband was not so lucky.
दुःख थियो त्यहाँ फेरि मेरै घरमा इब्रका भइसकेको थियो तल त्यहाँ उरु चौकी उठ्यो वर्ष दिनको फेरि बड्डलाई मारेपछि सबै घर जलाइदियो सानो 3टा घर जलायो दनसारहरू जलायो 11वटा जलाइदियो सब खाइदियो यसै दुःख फिर सबै के हेर्नेर यो दुःख कुल हेर्नु टिभी नि जरा बेदेखि आज पनि जस्तो गरिबे नि उनले पाल्दाछन् छोरा वर्ष दुःख काट्नु हुन्छ के खाइकन बस्ने के गर्ने के थोक्नु न छागल के बेलको के खाने
For many of the inhabitants of Musikot, these pressures can become too much to bear. The body of this man is being stretchered to the morgue after he killed himself. Jivan Khadka is a human rights worker who, despite the dangers, records abuses as and when they happen.
मानवाधिकार उल्लङ्घनका घटनाहरू व्यापक छन् अहिले पनि केही रूपमा सुधार भए तापनि घटनाहरू छन् विद्रोही पक्षबाट अपहरण गर्ने अनि लामो समयसम्म अभियान भनेर लामो समय जबरजस्ती मान्छेलाई राख्ने अनि राजनीतिक आस्थाका आधारमा अथवा आफ्नो युद्धलाई समर्थन नगरेकै आरोपमा पनि मान्छेहरूलाई बलजफ्ती अपहरण गर्ने यातना दिने खालका घटनाहरू भएका छन् भने राज्य पक्षबाट पनि राज्यलाई सहयोग नगरेको आरोपमा अथवा निहत्था नागरिकलाई निर्दोष नागरिकलाई पनि माओवादीले सपोर्ट गरेको आरोपमा दुःख यातना दिने जेलमा राख्ने लगायतका कुराहरू गरिएका छन् र मलाई के लाग्छ भनेदेखि विगत केही वर्ष यता व्यक्ति हत्या गर्ने प्रवृत्ति केही रूपमा कमी आएकोलाई नै मैले सुधार भनेको हुँ र त्योभन्दा बाहेक चाहिँ मान्छे सर्वसाधारण जनताहरूलाई जो द्वन्द्वरत पक्षहरूभन्दा बिचका मान्छेहरू सताउने प्रक्रिया दोहोरो पक्षबाट जारी छ.
One such civilian is Najit Baznet, a friend of Jivan's, a teacher and yet another victim of the conflict. Teachers like Baznet are often the only government employees in remote rural areas and as such are viewed with a great deal of suspicion by the Maoists.
Good afternoon, sit down. Thank you.
Baznet says the Maoists targeted him because his brother was the village chairman and a government supporter, and the scars of his ordeal are never far from his mind.
एक्कासी अगाडिबाट 2-4 जना अगाडिबाट अरु 2-4 जना ढेगारीबाट तलमाथिबाट आएर मलाई यहाँ समाएर यस्तै माथि अलि माथिबाट तल खोलामा फ्याके अनि त्यसपछि म फ्याक्दाखेरि म यतामुखी परे त्यसपछि यहाँ काटे अनि त्यति बेला म बेहोस भएर तिनीहरुले छपाछप काटे अनि त्यो छपाछप खुकुरीले छपाछप काट्दाखेरि मलाई यो हात छिनाल्दाखेरि यो हात काट्दाखेरि मैले भने मलाई नमार्नुस् भन्ने मेरो लामो स्वर आयो. त्यसपछि यहाँ काटे अनि यहाँ माथि टाउकोमा काटे गाला काटे अनि त्यो पिरौला काटे यो हात पनि काटे अनि म बेहोस थिएँ. म यस्तै ठाडा गाँठा लाएर यस्तो गरी बसेको थिएँ उनीले काटेर अनि हिरे.
These school children are in danger too. Maoists frequently abduct pupils and force them to attend re-education meetings. In Maoist-held territory, meanwhile, B Company of the Maoist 16th Battalion continue their training exercises. The Maoists have used the Himalayan terrain to their perfect advantage, and this has enabled them to control the vast majority of the country, even though they're outnumbered more than 5 to 1.
यो एक्सरसाइज भनेको नि यो मूलतः बंकर जस्तो छ दुश्मनको क्याम्प कब्जा गर्ने अवस्थामा चौतर्फी घेराबन्दी गरेर गरिने यो ड्रिल हो.
पोस्ट मतलब दुश्मनको बंकर हैन जस्तो खोटाङको ऐसेल घरको यस्तै किसिमको थियो.
The rebels never stay more than a few days in any one place, and fighters give up all semblance of a normal life when they join the Maoists. For Bihani, the party comes first. Love, family and friends all come second to the wishes of the party.
यो ममा छैन हैन मेरो अब जिन्दगीको बर्बाद भयो हैन यो जस्ट हामीले सोच्यो यो गलत सोचाइ हो हैन जसले गर्दाखेरि अब एउटा यो जिन्दगी भनेको कुनै पनि आखिरी हामीले एउटा चाहिँ जीवनको सवाल र चाहिँ बर्बादीको सवाल हामीले राखेका छैनौं मात्र कि एउटा चाहिँ भनौं न एउटा जनतालाई हैन एउटा कुनै पनि सर्वहारा जनताको हितको निमित्त र एउटा त्यही सर्वहारा जनताको मुक्तिको खातिर नै चाहिँ भनौं न यो आफ्नो भौतिक शरीर पनि समर्पित गर्दै हामी युद्धमा चाहिँ लामबन्दी छौं
12 hours walk from the nearest motorable road, the small town of Chisapani is a typically underdeveloped Nepali town and under the effective control of the Maoists. Fear of the Maoists drove the last government representatives away from here long ago, and under the banner of class struggle, the rebels are the new masters of the town. This building used to be a government office, but now serves as a clothes workshop, staffed by members of the untouchable or Dalit caste, spurned for centuries as the lowest of the low.
अहिले राम्रै छ पहिला दलित भन्दा धेरै हेपिएका थिए दलित भन्दा धेरै नै वास्ता थियो दलितको धेरै कुरो गर्थे अहिले त्यति साह्रो छैन राम्रै होला भन्ने आशमा छ र यति गरेर हामी यहाँ बसेको
Others sympathize with the Maoists because they've fallen victims of the state. Ganesh Pokharel last saw his son as he set off with a friend to find work in the valley. The next thing he heard of him was when the army announced on the radio that he'd been killed because he was a Maoist, a charge that his distraught father vehemently denies.
अनि एकदम फलामको छड्ने कुटेको रहेछ अनि दुईटै बियोस अवस्थामा भए बियोस अवस्थामा भएपछि त्यो दुर्गा कोइरालाको पहिले होस गुल्यो अरे उसको अहिले त पछि उसको बयान अनुसार नि सर उता छँदैछ मान्छे त्यो भइसकेपछि अनि तेरो प्रमाण के छ झिक भन्यो अरे दुर्गा कोइरालाले 81 अब सुतकुस कहाँबाट आयो के हो के छैन
Kapil Raj is the English teacher at a school that's paid a heavy price in the conflict. In the last 3 years, 2 teachers have been killed, one by the Maoists and one by the army. During the same period, 4 students have been killed by the army on suspicion of supporting the Maoists.
The common people are trapped, yes, between 2 stones, right? Because if the government side comes here, we have to accept. If the Maoist group comes here, we have to accept, yes. And our request is that, please let us freedom.
With no apparent end in sight to the stalemate on the battlefield, the best hope for the people of Nepal lies with a negotiated settlement to the conflict. And unless the conflict is ended soon, there are growing fears that Nepal's pressing humanitarian needs will only worsen.
Nepal has always been on the brink of a humanitarian crisis, even before this war started. I mean, look at our maternal mortality rate, the number of children who die. I mean, we've always had a huge humanitarian crisis, and the insurgency has just made matters worse. And I think now if the world wants to help, really the help is really needed to first tackle the first problem, which is to end the insurgency. And then maybe look at the larger background humanitarian crisis that was always there in Nepal.
But with hardliners on both sides dug in and adamant that the war can still be won militarily, the prospects for peace look as slim as ever.